Okay, it's Chelsea again with Stepping Stones, and right now I wanted to talk about more about DRA, differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, and just answer a few questions. So I have 4 questions that I think are very important to talk about and answer. The first is, why or how is this subject important to ABA? This subject is vital to ABA because this is pretty much like so basic and foundational to what we do, or especially what we do applied behavior in the home, because we're always looking for, we're usually called in for kid is doing wrong behavior or parent is doing wrong behavior. How do I fix it? How you fix it is always to not reinforce them for the wrong behavior and to teach them an alternative behavior and reinforce them for the alternative behavior. So if we're not differentially reinforcing, so if we're not making a difference to the child, so that they understand my responses make a difference in whether I'm reinforced, whether I'm not reinforced, or whether I'm punished, how are they going to learn? How does any individual learn except they try something and they have a favorable outcome, or they try something and they have a unfavorable outcome? That's where the learning occurs. And so for us to use reinforcement and to withhold reinforcement is key to what we do. So that's how it's important to ABA. What are the consequences of getting it wrong? Here's an example. Consequences of getting it wrong. So remember, we have our lock and key situation. Now imagine that 2 of these 3 keys, I have 3 keys, 2 of these 3 keys actually open the lock. Let's imagine that this key is slapping sister and this key is biting sister. Wait, no. Okay, start over. Let's imagine this key is asking sister nicely. Can I please have whatever? And this key is slapping sister. What happens if when the child asks sister nicely, it actually opens the lock? And what happens when the child slaps sister? It actually opens the lock also. Which one of these responses is the kid going to have? They're going to have, I'm going to be honest with you, they're going to have whichever of these responses is easiest to them. So let's say that kid is eating a donut, sister has a toy that he wants, his mouth is full, so he can't use the response of, sister, can I have the toy? So he's going to smack her because he knows that that works too. My mouth's full, incompatible with that thing I need to do, so let me smack her because I know that that key opens what I need, also gets me access or gets me what I need. This is why it's really important for us to get it right on differential reinforcement. To me, I think about that as making a difference or making sure we're showing a difference to the child in their responses so that they know which one do I want to do. So that means that we can't or shouldn't, good ABA should not allow the child to engage in a inappropriate or maladaptive response and still open the key to the lock to that reinforcement or whatever the reinforcer is. So that's what happens when we get it wrong. We have a kid that is sometimes doing the appropriate response or sometimes engaging in the alternative response. So instead of aggression, they're using their words, but then they still go back to aggression. Why? Because that opens the lock also. So if we're not really strict on, nope, this is the only thing that opens it. Okay. What are the benefits of getting it right? Benefits of getting it right is it becomes very clear very quickly to the child which one of these keys work, because only this one opens it. No matter how many times I try anything else, no matter how hard I try this other thing, how many times I try it, it's not gonna open it. No matter how many times I smack sister or I yell or I try to grab it from her or I cry or whine, I never get the toy from any of those things. So very quickly, any child is going to learn, okay, that does not work, but what works? Using my words, because every time I use my words, it opens it. And only when I use my words, it opens it. another conversation about schedules of reinforcement, even within DRA. So that's what happens when we get it right. We are very clear to our kids, and they are very clear about this is what I need to do. When you have that kiddo and you're having a lot of variability in their graph, going up and down and up and down, you know what? That probably means that DRA is not as tight as it should be, and that probably means that there is reinforcement within that setting for different responses. So that kid is like, sometimes I smack the sister and she gives it to me. Not 100% of the time, but like 30% of the time. Sometimes I use my words and, I get it 90% of the time. Sometimes I grab it and I can run away and I get it. And so you see a lot of variability in our graphs besides the specific response that we're looking for in the presence of that SD. How do we do it right? That's a great question. That's probably one of the most important question on the list. How do we do it right? We have to first have an understanding of what is a correct response from that kid. That is the same as us having an understanding of which one of these keys are the ones that actually work. Right? Which one of these are the keys that we want to train to the kid works, right? We have to be very clear about that. That's why we have within our description what the correct response is from the kid. Oftentimes, we will have a generalized correct response from the kid, because it's very important that the kid is able to say, sister, can I have the toy? And I want it, please. So we don't want them to only say, sister, can I have the toy? But we want them to have a generalized response criteria that gets that lock opened. However, we want to make sure that we are really discriminating that when you smack or grab, that never ever works. Okay. That's the main how do you get it right? And then you're just very consistent. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, well, what about if the parent is the one that lets the other key work? Guess what the kid's going to realize? They're going to realize in the presence of Chelsea, that key never works. So I'm never using that key when Chelsea's around. It may take a little while longer for the kid to learn that, hey, when mom's around, she lets the black key work and the gold key. But when Chelsea's around, she only lets the gold key work. But very quickly, the kid is still going to learn Chelsea's around. That's the setting. This is the SD. Only this key works. So if you still have a kid that's having a lot of variability with just you and just your session, let's take a little more responsibility and not blame it on, well, parents, go back. Because just like I am not sitting on the screen in my pajamas with you, I have learned that even though there are different responses I can have as far as like my clothing and my apparel, I'm not going to have that with you. Although when I turn the screen off and I'm with my kids, I look completely different. So just like we can learn those different setting events that cause us to behave a certain way, or mean that within that realm, within that setting, this is going to be reinforced, this is not going to be reinforced. Our kids very quickly learn that too. It's a lot better, easier for everybody if we are all doing exactly the same, but that's not realistic. So I hope that explains DRA, why it's important, how to do it, how not to do it. All right, take care.